Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
Welcome, everybody, to another brand new episode of MHRT Podcast. I'm your host, Mundungus Creevy. As always, alongside my co-host, the 6'10", Mr. Boggins, and Glenn Mile High Fiber Hauser. If you're new here, we want to welcome you to the MHRT Network. We're a group of fan-led Broncos-based podcasts, and we do our absolute best to fill you in on all things Broncos news, while also bringing you some headlines throughout the NFL. Now make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, turn on notifications so that you can get alerted anytime we go live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Now, not only does the network have the MHRT podcast, but we also have Broncos Talk that goes live every Tuesday at 7654. The Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast that goes live every Friday at 7654. And the newest podcast to the network, The Neigh-borhood, which airs before every Broncos game. Now, on today's episode, we are welcoming a very special guest. She is the sports anchor reporter for CBS 4 there in Denver and a former Denver Broncos cheerleader. Ladies and gentlemen, Romi Bean.
Yeah.
Let's go.
How we doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. This is going to be fun.
Anytime.
So there is so much stuff to talk about. Obviously, the Broncos are 3-0 after mollywopping the Jets. And yes, I said mollywopping because I couldn't think of anything else to say, so that just made sense.
Going to have to use that in my sportscast later.
You might want to look up the definition just to be sure. Yeah.
But I will do that.
Yeah, I just threw it out there, so I don't even know if that's the correct meaning for it, but whatever. It works for me. Let's kind of hit some headlines here before we go into the recap of the Jets and then the preview in the Ravens game. Mm-hmm. We do have a little bit of news going on. First of all, before we even hit the Denver news, I want to talk about the halftime show. For once, they're going to have a really, 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 really good halftime show. Have you guys seen this?
Oh, yeah.
So it's Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. I'll take two, please.
I
love that.
agree. I like it, but like that's a lot of people. We really need 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey,
I like all the choices. I think they'll make some good collabs. Don't get me wrong, but 5 is like a lot. You got to squeeze them all into what? Well, I guess the halftime show's a little longer, but
that's true. I think the last time they did something like that, it was like Aerosmith, Britney Spears, Justin. Remember when they did that?
Yeah.
It was just pure chaos.
Don't knock it. Don't knock it.
They did it at Super Bowl 50 because I think the first person they announced was Coldplay, and everyone was like, "Oh, Coldplay!"
Yeah.
And then they just started piling. Beyonce was there for like it was like such a mishmash. It was like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm glad Kendrick's coming out with something, and since 10 decades ago, so it's fine. I'm excited.
All right, so before we hop into Broncos news, let's go Mile High Prophet. 4-0, here we go. What's up, Mile High Prophet? Avatar, what's up, Broncos Country? Let's see here. EJ, what's up, Broncos Country? Albert Knoppers, long time no see. Welcome, buddy. Saw your pictures on the on your Facebook page from the meet and greet. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I hope you had fun.
Jerry Howell and Mile High 5. We'll get there. Dave Glassman.
I already did it.
It doesn't count, and you still have to do it later too.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Bree. Romy.
Bree, what's up, girlfriend? Bree's my girl.
We like Bree.
She was on last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Filled in for Boggins.
All right. Yeah, she did because Boggins was like, I don't like you guys. I'm not going to show up this week. So we went.
I mean, it's a pretty good replacement. Good thing you got your good back, Boggins.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I'm surprised Boggins is back. But
yeah, I understood. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk about dedication. I mean, Glenn's in Arizona right now, like broadcasting on his phone. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why Boggins can't just be more dedicated, just a little bit.
Sounds like some internal issues.
All right.
He left.
So let's
Let's get Bree on here.
There we go.
Come on down.
So the big news, I think, Von Miller named the AFC Defensive Player of the Month.
Yes.
I am very, very happy for him. I'm also, at the same time, a little surprised that it wasn't like Myles Garrett.
Mm-hmm. And didn't Chandler Jones have 5 in one game? So I feel like.
Well, but he's NFC though, right?
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
NFC.
he's
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's gone again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little shocked that it wasn't Myles Garrett, but I'm not taking anything away from Von. Like super excited that he got it, especially after not being able to play at all last year.
Man, if you want motivation, that is motivation for you. I mean, it's amazing. The Broncos even uploaded a highlight reel of his plays the last month, and they're just amazing. So it's great to see. You know, one of the biggest worries we had about Von coming into the season was what kind of Von were we going to get? Were we going to get the Von of old? Were we going to get a player who was probably going to be a little rusty? Because being a year away from football and coming back, it's not as easy as a lot of people think. You know, you have to get used to the wear and tear that the game itself brings on you. But with Von, you can it doesn't even show that he has any of that. He's hungry. He wants to go out there and he wants to bring a championship to Denver. And I, for one, love it.
Dude, I think it's like Von, this is like a year plus in the making. Because I remember last year's training camp, it was like, man, Von looks like a different animal. I mean, it looked like he was gearing up for what was kind of going to be his best season yet. I think you couple that with then losing football, losing really your first love for a whole year, having to sit there and watch your team win 5 games. All of that combined, he always talks about, you know, the aspect of being a father too, but it all kind of came together. Then you're 32, you realize you're on the back 9. I think all that motivation's there. But what's been so impressive is he's playing like he's 25. I mean, it's crazy. He's coming off the line so fast, right? And just nobody torpedoes around the corner like he does. The way he has played, you know, he really, truly has not missed a step. And like Vic Fangio has said, yeah, this injury doesn't have lingering effects, but like still, right?
Yeah.
You missed a whole year. It is crazy how this is his first month back from injury, and he's just an absolute monster. But it's so fun to see. And it obviously is kind of a trickle down effect with everybody else too. But it's been such a pleasant surprise. Like you said, it definitely could have been Myles Garrett. I think has like 5.5 sacks. But just the fact that this is his first month back after missing a full year is crazy. That he's tied for tackles for loss, and he's had a sack in every single game. You know, and he's helping cause those interceptions. Right? He's disrupting. He's everything. The Von of old. So it's crazy that he's 32 and he's playing the way he is.
So Romy, when you were there with Vic today, were you surprised that he made mention that he sees Von playing many years to come, not just this year? Do you think that was his nudge to George to maybe start extension talk with Von? What was your take?
You know, no offense to Vic Fangio, I don't think he thinks that far to hidden meanings or subtle messages. I think Vic is he wants to play ball. Fine, I'll do these press conferences, but he just wants to coach football. He just wants to talk football. I don't think he's trying to. Right, I don't think he's trying to set any subtle messages. I think he really is a guy that he says what he means. He doesn't dole out compliments very often. So when he does, you take it for what it's worth, which is a lot, right? And I think that he, out of everyone, was particularly hard on Von when he got here, you know, and remember when he got here and people were trying to compare them to Khalil Mack, and Fangio was not biting, right? And he was not really even giving Von credit yet because he was saying that I haven't really worked with Von, right? And so it was almost like, oh, okay. So that says a lot, just how much he has to say about Von, saying I think he has a lot of years left, you know, and impressed by how much he's gone. I think, again, you just take Fangio at his word. And it speaks volumes because he's a guy who's hard on defenders.
I think there's a lot of players that are going to make it interesting this coming off season, man. With Tim Patrick's, even K-Jack playing pretty lights out. It's going to be real interesting, especially with all the free agents we're about to have too.
It's kind of weird with Von to think about he's in a contract year because you just think Von's going to be a Bronco forever, right?
Yeah.
It's weird to think this is funny. My cousin in Australia was like, I really want to get a Broncos jersey. I was like, get a Vaughn one. And then somebody's like, what if he's not here next year? And it's like,
that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
what? Like it's weird to think about. But also if he plays like this all year, he's probably going to garner some good money. It's just going to be interesting to see what the market for Von Miller is on what's potentially the final contract, right, of his career.
Yeah, I think that's a point that I hadn't even thought of, is like, if Vaughn keeps playing the way he's playing, he might price himself out of Denver. You know, especially with everybody else that we have to sign or attempt to sign, he might price himself out.
And then it comes down to, is this team, what do they look like at the end of the year? Does he feel like I can win with this team? And then he's made so much money, right? Maybe he's willing to, come back on less. But that's all dependent on he's always said he wanted to retire a Bronco, but I think it's about, does he feel like he could win here or not, right? So there's a lot riding on this season if you even think of it from that angle.
Who's going to take care of his poultry farm if he leaves?
I think Mama Miller. No,
all right.
Isn't his farm in Texas though?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, his parents live out there, I believe.
That's fine. It's fine then. Never mind.
He's got more than one though, doesn't he? I thought he had a couple chicken farms.
I'm not sure. I know the one in the video, but I don't know.
I see Melvin wears the hat for the poultry farm.
Yeah. Vaughn wears it all the time now. I'm like, they're pretty cool hats. I'd wear one.
I'll get one.
Well, instead of throwing you the football at his event the other night, he should have thrown you a hat. How nervous were you when the ball was sailing through the air?
Oh my God, you guys! I was so nervous. So I said to my brother, because I brought my brother to the event, and I was like, "Sorry, I have a hair in my face." And I looked at him. I was like, "Man, Greg, I am nervous. Like, what if I'm really nervous? I'm going to drop the ball." And my brother just goes, "Well, don't drop it."
Seems all right.
Thanks for the encouragement, bro.
Sound advice.
But it was good. It was probably the good sound advice I needed. And you know what? Vaughn always says he wants to play quarterback. Threw a beautiful pass, lobbed it right up. So I was like, whew. But I was like, man, I can see it now. Local sports reporter. Can't catch a football. No, I was like, this will be my worst nightmare. But then I was really happy when I caught it. And he threw some bombs. He was throwing some people like pretty far out. So I was just glad I wasn't the one who dropped it.
Better spin.
Any good stories from that event?
Oh man, it was just a really cool event. So I had gone to that event last year when it was like in the thick of COVID, and it was a lot smaller. Everyone was in masks, and there was a couple players that showed up via Zoom. I remember McManus did, I think Bradley Chubb did, and they just said a little like pre-recorded message on Zoom because none of the guys could go. So it was so different. So this year was awesome. I mean, I can't tell you how many, probably 15 of his teammates showed up. They were all auctioning off their jersey. They were interacting with people. And to see them there, after winning 3 games, was that after the third one or the second one? Maybe it was the second one. But whatever. To see them there all undefeated, just their energy, their spirit was so high, them interacting with everyone. It was just so cool, right? We haven't seen the team. Well, first of all, we haven't seen the team in person a whole lot outside of football because of COVID, but then also just because to see them so uplifted and so energized, right? It's the Monday after a game, right? They just basically got into a car accident the day before, right? Because the game's so tough, and they're just so energized. They're just talking with people. It was cool to see. It was cool to see all the guys come out and support Vaughn, and you just get this feel, like Vaughn always says, it does feel different in so many ways, right? And you kind of saw it out there, so that was really cool.
Avatar says, me and my mom always enjoy watching you on Channel 4 News, Romy.
Avatar, thank you so much. Made my night.
Yeah, Mrs. Avatar.
Yay. Yay. Kobe Valdez, Romy.
Kobe.
I think Dave Glassman's trying to set me up because he I wonder if he has any Tyrannosaurus-sized chickens. Now, Glenn did happen to show me a video of Romy doing a routine in a T-Rex costume. So
crowning achievement.
The question that I always like to ask to kind of loosen everything up, and we got it from the little cam that they had at training camp, was would you rather take on a T-Rex sized chicken or 100 chicken sized T-Rexes?
T-Rex sized chicken or 100 chicken sized. I think Shelby was the one who made the point. Take on 100 chicken-sized T-Rexes because you can just kick them, right? And I think Shelby was the one doing the kick example. Now Shelby could kick them a lot harder than I could, but a T-Rex size, that is big. So then you got to imagine the chickens just everything. The talons are really big. I would rather take on 100 little ones. And again, you just get your feet kicking. You know, it was like Phil Lindsay in that game where he got stuck at the bottom of the scrum. Was that Baltimore? What game was that? You know, when he was.
Oh,
just,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, where
just
he
do
got
that.
ejected.
Just punch it and kick it. I think 100 T-Rex sized chickens would be easier to take on.
Yeah. Just get the hose out.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it was the last. I think we've all been pretty split. Like in my, like for me, it's like, let's take babies for example. If you have one baby, not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But you have 100 babies, like it's a
Like
lot.
you do.
Like me, there's a
That's
lot.
fair.
And like, so not only are they like
you don't have to
the
lie
size
to
of
him,
babies,
Romi.
but
That's
they're
not
also
fair.
like
Terrible.
carnivore dinosaur that's still trying to eat you, and there's 100 of them. So you can kick them, but they keep coming.
Yeah.
So I'd rather take on one big one. At least I know where it's at.
Inside of you now, because this beak is just that's where he is.
Yeah, that's what you got to think about. That is like one killer beak. I think it's just
pecking.
So Romi, when you did that as a cheerleader, what led you to pick that as your costume for that game?
Oh,
That
you know what's so
classic.
funny? It was such like a harebrained thing. I had just so the way it works is if the game falls on Halloween, then as cheerleaders you get to wear costumes, and then everyone has to get their costume approved, and it's your typical lineup of costumes because you also want to be able to dance in it, and you also want to look cute in it, and all the things, and I don't know, I just like somehow was like, ooh, I want to wear the T-Rex costume. And I asked my director, and she like laughed. I think she was kind of thought I was half joking, and she's like, okay. So we all show up at the field house, and there's like the sexy skeleton and the sexy Waldo and the sexy pirate. And I just like walk in with my giant
Inflatable T-Rex.
Our choreographer was like not thrilled, and she was like, but it like looked funny, so she was like, all right, you can do it for player intros. So the way which kind of has changed over the years, but you usually do a dance like in the center of the field, and then you run over to the tunnel, and then the player intros obviously when the guys run through the tunnel. And she's like, you can do it for that, and that's it. And I was like, deal, I'm in. So it was called the fight song. We did it, and I was just like dancing my heart out mostly because I was like, our choreographer can get so mad if I mess this up. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot mess this up. And then after player intros, I'm running back into the tunnel to go change, and she's like, no, the people love it. Whoa, you can stay in it. So she let me stay in it for like the first quarter. And then at the quarter breaks, we do like a dance. So she's like, you have to change before then. Okay. And when I changed, it was so hot. It was like an 85-degree day. It was so hot in that suit. I don't know how the little fan didn't die, but it was so awesome, you guys. That.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh no, we lost her.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Good time to break out your sign language. Yeah, no, got it.
Yeah. Karate chops.
Karate.
I blame Glenn.
Should I leave and come back? Oh,
No,
There you go.
No.
guys,
Yay.
I got a spam call. Like if spam calls aren't bad enough, that's what just happened.
Yeah, we get those all the time.
You know what? When your car conks out, don't come crying to us, okay?
That's true.
You know what? No.
Romi,
Yeah,
I do have the hardest question you've ever been asked though.
I'm ready.
Who made a better Broncos cheerleader? You or Robin Williams?
I mean, Robin Williams.
Okay.
Right?
that's
Come
I
on.
rest his soul.
Absolute legend, right?
That's fine.
That was absolutely epic. I've always wanted to meet someone who actually was a cheerleader at that time and got to do that with him. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
Haven't been able to track anyone down, but yeah, that no contest there.
So since we're talking about your cheerleading career, how many years did you do it? And what were some of your favorite moments that you experienced while on the field? Any favorite plays, favorite games, anything like that?
Yeah, I did it for 7 years, which is like crazy. Better part of a decade. I did it in 2 stints. So my very first year was 2005. So the AFC Championship game that year was like good and bad all at once, right? That was, I will never forget, that was the weirdest game. There were so many Steelers fans in the crowd. Like everything felt weird. And if you talk to guys from that team, they'll tell you like things were just off. Like Jeb Putzier always says, like it just didn't feel right from like when they came in the locker room that day, which is so interesting. The whole thing felt off, right? So I feel like I have a lot of vivid memories from that. And then really through my first stint was like the Josh McDaniels years. So I don't have like a ton of great memories.
Also fair.
I guess I did it through 2010. So like right before the Tebow craze and everything. But then I came back, I moved back, and I just happened to come back in 2015. It was a good year to re-audition.
That's fine. Yeah.
Worked out quite well. And that 2015 defense, I mean, I know we talk about it all the time, but being on the sideline and seeing them was like absolutely magical. That was the year I completely became like a defensive convert. Like I'm such a maniac for good defense. And I think it was just watching those guys just demolish everybody. And what week was it? It was like early on when they just ruined Aaron Rodgers for like the rest of the year.
And you just
see them take down
week 5 or week 6.
And he was not the same the rest of that year. And to see the way they were, I mean, unbelievable. And the no-fly zone, just personality like you've never seen.
Yards.
To see Vaughn and DeMarcus, just everything, to see that close up. Darian Stewart, I mean, how hard he would hit people was incredible. So I just feel like I have so many memories of that. And then the AFC Championship game that year was magical. That was a really, really amazing one. And then, of course, Super Bowl 50. I think the AFC Championship game was almost more exciting game-wise, right? But to be on the field with the confetti coming down was an experience that I will never forget. And I feel so lucky to have been able to experience that. My goodness. So just really that whole season, but really the defensive aspect of that season.
What parallels do you see with that defense and our defense currently? If any?
It's so funny. No, I mean, I think this year's defense is the real deal. It's hard for me to compare anything to that 2015 defense because I think they really do rank in the tops of all time. And I think to earn a comparison to that, you got to go do what they did, man. You got to win a Super Bowl. You got to dominate every single game. I mean, how many games did they win by like 7 points or less in that season? So I just think the personalities are very different. But I can see the dominance of play and the dynamic set up with the dominant pass rush and then a really, really talented secondary. I think you can draw comparisons in that front. I think I'm just always hesitant because, again, you got to go do what they did to earn that comparison. I am not a fan of the no-fly zone 2.0. I'm like so against that nickname because I believe if you're that good, you'll earn your own nickname, right? Like, and it's just like, I don't even like drawing comparisons.
I thought they were trying pandemic, weren't they? Weren't they? And they were like, I heard that they were trying pandemic, and it's kind of like, well, a little on the nose, I feel like.
I don't know about that. But I feel like Kareem Jackson's capable of coming up with like a really good nickname.
Yeah.
Really good nickname. But honestly, like the defense this year, I'm so excited to watch them. I mean, through the first 3 games, they've been lights out. Like, I don't care how bad the Jets are, to shut out a team in the NFL, you're good. You're legit, right? And they're doing this without Bradley Chubb, which we thought, we're finally going to get Vaughn and Bradley together. But you've got this vintage Vaughn going on, and really the secondary. I mean, the way Pat Surtain is so NFL ready is kind of crazy.
Yep.
And even Caden Stern's like, okay, I'll just come fill in the dime, get an interception. I'm all good. I'm good in coverage. So I just think we're finally going to get to see like Vic Fangio's defensive genius come to fruition this year. And I'm excited about it.
Well, and going off the defense, like we had PFF come out saying that the Broncos are ranked number 1 in defense for PFF. But then you had Bleacher Report come out with a story about how they should bench Justin Simmons.
Yeah.
Because Caden Stearns is so good.
Yeah.
Like, quit your day job, people.
And like, I'm not taking anything away from Caden Stearns, but come on.
Dude, come on. Not to mention, Justin is so cerebral. And like, I've asked a bunch of people have asked Vic about this over the years, but like everyone talks about how complicated Vic Fangio's defense is. It's much more complex, especially for the secondary, than most other defenses in the league. And the way that Justin comprehends it, understands it, is able to communicate with everybody. Like you can't put a price tag on. Well, they did put a big price tag on that, but yeah, I mean that's like, come on, people. What are you talking about? Like Oh, that's like, I can't even answer that because that's so silly. Don't you
Yeah.
guys think? I mean, it's
No,
like the
well,
dumbest thing ever.
I've basically been saying it for the longest that basically Vic Fangio is kind of doing what he did when he was in Chicago, where it took him almost 3 years to turn that defense around. And then in 2018, they just went out and got Khalil Mack they didn't even really need him, but bringing him to that already stacked Chicago defense just made them all that much more better. And if it wasn't for a dink ball hitting the uprights, who knows how far that defense would have carried Chicago in that playoff season. So what we saw in Chicago is what we're seeing in Denver this season, going into Vic Fangio's third year. All the guys on defense know their schemes, they know their roles. The only thing they have to do is just play efficiently, not get flagged, and try to avoid injury as best as possible.
Totally. And Justin, I mean, is the leader of that. You got to give credit to Vic Fangio for putting in these rookies and helping them integrate so well, but also Justin, man, because Justin's the one who's telling them what to do, is making sure, they're all, he's the main guy back there. And Vic Fangio's defense, like you said, in Chicago, it took 3 years. We're here in year 3. And it's like, oh, okay, it's all coming together because it's so complex. It's almost like a complex offense. So it's just, for somebody to say that is so silly. And I actually talked to Caden Stearns today off to the side. Fantastic guy, great, just quality human being, quality personality. But he was talking about how much Justin and Kareem have helped him along. He's just asking him all these questions, right? There's stuff that as a rookie you just don't know. So for somebody to say bench Justin for
Yeah.
And then kind of switching gears a little bit, 2 more little things before we do that game review. The Broncos designated Mike Boone for return from injured reserve.
Yeah, buddy.
And we signed David Moore off the Raiders practice squad to kind of, I don't know if so much fill in, but take the place of KJ Hamler, who's out for the year.
Take the place is kind of a
not really take the place either, but like fill the roster spot. There, we'll go with that.
I mean, he's a decent slot receiver. He's definitely not KJ speed, but he's definitely got hands for sure. He out here in Seattle, people did like him a lot. But it's going to be hard to fill what KJ was able to do. I mean, I wish Spencer could catch better, and then he would potentially be our decent replacement.
I mean, I still think, what's that?
Oh, go ahead, Romy. I'm sorry.
No, I still think like between Cortland and Tim Patrick, they can carry the load, right? And Teddy loves his tight ends, but KJ is he has such a different skill set, right? That speed. And so there's just no one on the team that can really replicate that at all. So in a way, it's just trying to move forward and for Teddy to keep spreading the ball around, right? But KJ, you can't replace his skill set. But you also can't replace Jerry Jeudy's skill set, and they've surprisingly moved along just fine, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they will just move along just fine, but it's one of those things that there are just plays that aren't going to be made now because KJ could have got that. Nobody's got that speed. He's got God-given speed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was going to ask if we can go back to Justin, because this week, Romy, you put out a tweet that got a tremendous amount of attention and retweets of Justin's story about Teddy Bridgewater waiting for him to share a prayer after the game. And I wanted to ask you a couple things on that. One, did Justin, since then, did he comment anything to you about getting that out there and such the positive reaction? And also, is it unusual to see a quarterback so integrated with the defensive players like Teddy seems to have these relationships with the defensive guys in addition to the offense?
Yeah, I mean, Justin was asked about it at his Wednesday presser, and he kind of retold the story, and he was like, just kind of left it at that, right? I think Justin's very genuine. He wasn't putting it out for likes or anything. It just happened to blow up because it was just such a great story, right? And Teddy was asked about it too, and they both kind of just told the story again and just showed you really how genuine the moment was. But to your second point I mean, Teddy has been beyond amazing on the leadership front. And I know that's kind of becoming more and more of a conversation, but this was just such a huge example of a guy having the awareness to know that his teammate needed that. So much so that Justin, who's a pretty private guy, took to social media to tell that story. And then, of course, the reaction that it got. But of course, Teddy didn't do it for that. He just knew, right? And Justin, that was one of the things that floored Justin was like, he's like, I don't know how Teddy like knew that. But for Teddy to have such a sense of what everyone on his team needs has been it's been unbelievable, you guys. And I remember in training camp, it was one of the first things I noticed. I was like, man, Teddy's talking to everybody. And I noticed like he was always talking with Justin and Kareem. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I've seen a quarterback just like interacting with the defense so much like this, but he was from like day one. You could tell he just, everyone was so drawn to him because one, he's such a genuine person, but I think he really gets to know guys. He really understands what their needs are. I mean, he talked about having KJ Hamler's locker moved next to him. That wasn't something KJ kind of mentioned that in passing. Yeah. That wasn't something that anybody asked for. Teddy just said, hey, you know, I'm going to take him under my wing. I mean, this guy's awareness and just innate leadership skills are unbelievable. It's crazy to see it in person, but you can also see this is a guy that everyone's going to play for. And we're seeing it more and more examples why that he really is truly a selfless leader. And he just does things for the guys on his team because he genuinely cares about them. And this is the result, right? And so I'm not saying, oh, that's the only reason they've won, but this is a factor. These guys are playing for Teddy because they know Teddy will do anything for them. And it's just really cool to see. I mean, honestly, we just haven't seen that in a while. And the truth is, you don't even see that much, right? Teddy is a special guy for sure.
And it's cool to see someone so soft-spoken that just people just gather around, and you don't really necessarily see it really in press conferences. You just hear about it from other people. It's not like a Baker Mayfield thing where it's just like out in the open and just like, you know, semi-abrasive. It's just like everyone just kind of flocks to him just because of who he is.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's just he is who he is, and it's like, and that's part of it too, is everyone knows that he's just so genuine about it. It's really cool. I just think in so many walks of life, you don't meet that many people like that. So to see him leading a football team is really cool.
Another thing that fascinates me about him is with his press conferences, he has that prepared statement, or he walks up and immediately starts talking. I love that. I can't wait to hear it. I mean, even when New Orleans had the hurricane, and he commented on that because he had lived there for a time. It's really cool. I've never seen other players do that.
I've never seen anyone do. I mean, I've seen college coaches. They always do an opening statement. And it's funny, when he first started, we were like, what's going on? And now Teddy comes up. We all got our cameras up. We're ready. Teddy's opening statement. And you know what's funny? Vaughn has started doing it after games now. Like, but it's just like, it's just so Teddy. It's so great. I love that he does that. And it's funny because I just don't know. I've never, especially in the pros, you never see anybody do that, right? Yeah. But like you said, it's always soft spoken and it's genuine, and it's just like he's just sharing his thoughts for the day. I love it.
One name that's kind of gone under the radar for a while. I was kind of wondering how he's doing. How is Drew Lock doing with all of this?
You know, the truth is we don't really know either because we're not allowed in the locker rooms.
Yeah.
But everything you see out at practice, he seems like the same guy, right? And you know, he's always, you know, he's talking to the guys and working with Teddy, and it seems like he's handling it well from what we've seen, right? We haven't really seen anything, but I'm sure that this is tough for Locke. Like you said, this is the first time in his life he's been benched, right? Yeah. You don't get to this level if you're not the best your entire life. So I'm sure that it's tough for him, but I still believe if he handles this right, there's no one better to learn from than Teddy. Like we've been talking about, right? He just wants everybody to get better. You know, in that meeting room, right? He wants to help Drew. It's not like Joe Flacco, who's like, don't copy off my homework, right? Like Teddy's the guy that they wish Joe Flacco was 2 years ago, right? Yeah. Then I think Drew would have been on a totally different trajectory. So I still believe if Drew handles it the right way, which it seems like he is, that this could really actually end up benefiting him a lot, even though no one wants to get benched. I get that.
Albert says the no passing zone. And then the Reavers.
I
don't know what that is.
That's, you don't know it. Someone doesn't watch Firefly.
I really didn't. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm only nerdy enough for Harry Potter, not for Firefly.
No.
So let's kind of hit the Jets game a little bit. Do we have a player of the game for the Jets game?
Man, that's a good question.
For me, I'm going Alexander Johnson. 2 sacks. He did his little, I don't remember what it's called, the little dinosaur dance.
Yeah. He's the new T-Rex.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
He's the chicken-sized or T-Rex-sized chicken.
The chicken side.
It's complicated, man.
Yeah, 2 sacks. I mean, I think I had Von Miller as the player of the game for the first one because of 2 sacks. So I'm going to go with Alexander Johnson for 2 sacks in this one.
He did good. Von would probably be my pick because he was just out there. He was wrecking damage. And even though he didn't get a sack every time he got back there, he made that offensive line work. And when he did beat the rush, he got to where he needed to be. He also got to the running back when they tried to run the ball. So and it's just amazing to watch that even when the offensive line has to try to double team Von, it's usually a tight end just trying to chip him. But obviously you can't just chip a guy like Von and expect him to fall off balance. It's not enough delay where he still can't get to the quarterback. So Von is my choice for player of the game.
I'm probably going to have to go with my boy Timmy P. I in the past have said that it wasn't even a competition if like it wouldn't be a discussion Broncos necessarily extending him when they have to worry about like Cortland this coming season. However, he is making it really tough. He looks like a number 1 receiver out there. I guarantee he would get trade offers. They probably already have gotten calls about him. And I'm sure he will get some decent offers this offseason. So I don't really know if we're really going to get him back unless we try to extend him now. But I'm going to have to go with Timmy P. That boy has really been stepping up for sure.
These are all really good choices. I totally agree with Tim Patrick. He's going to get paid. Guy has 0 drops.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And when you watch Tim Patrick catch the ball, he just like, he pulled that in no matter what angle. It's crazy to watch. But for a guy to have 0 drops all of last season and then through 3 games this season is just crazy. And again, like you said, to be kind of as underrated as he is. I mean, I don't know if he's as underrated anymore in terms of teams were calling about him, earlier in training camp and they didn't want to let him go. But it will be interesting. The Broncos do have one of like the highest, most money and salary cap going into next offseason. So that would be nice to see them do something with a guy like Tim Patrick, man. I hope so. But I feel like I go with Alexander Johnson too, right? He had 2 sacks. And really just the defense as a whole. I know that's totally cheating. But again, you shut out an NFL team. It takes all 11 guys to shut out an NFL team. It's so impressive to me.
Romy, do you see a situation where Sutton and Patrick can both be signed to deals, long-term deals?
I mean, I think when you look, the 2 of them play together. They play so well together, right? Because it's almost, I think Tim Patrick may have said it this week, like we're both covered, but we're not really covered, right? To have 2 big like guys like that is oh my gosh, would be such an asset. It just depends, I guess, how much money do you have? Do they end up still going in like a crazy quarterback race, right? Like that door is obviously not shut because it depends how this season goes and all that stuff. But I would like them to find a way to sign both of those because like you said, man, Tim Patrick has proved his value in every sense. And he has been there when everybody else has gone down. Besides the fact that he doesn't drop the ball, he's been so reliable, right? With health, with everything, that, gosh, you'd like to see him. And Jerry Jeudy's young. KJ Hamler's young, so you don't got to worry about those guys. So, gosh, it would be great to see them do something like that. Javonte Williams is young. They have a lot of guys that are young that they don't necessarily need to re-sign. So that would be great. I would love to see them allocate that money to Cortland and to Tim Patrick because it would be really sad to see Tim go, man.
Yeah, Mario asked if Tim was the most underrated receiver in the NFL. What do you think?
I mean, I think he's one up for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I just go back to the drops alone. Like you talk about one with that your receiver can, or that you're as a quarterback, you can absolutely depend on. And you're like, this guy's going to catch the ball, right? And he's had at least 4 receptions in every game. He's had some touchdowns. I mean, he's clearly got the chemistry with Teddy, and he's one of those guys that has gone through the the quarterback gauntlet here, and it doesn't matter who's throwing to him. He finds a way to catch it. I think he's definitely one of the more underrated. And he always talks about it like I'm undrafted. And it's crazy, you guys, how like that's really a thing, right? You think like, oh, no, that doesn't matter. But it does, right? Even like Rod Smith his whole life. It's crazy that if you're not drafted, that really does affect kind of your viewing. And it's insane to me because I think that when you see the talent and you see everything he puts out there, it's like, how can that even be a thing? But it is, right? It's weird.
You know, what's cool. I don't mean to dominate the conversation with Timmy, but he's starting to get a lot of momentum, a lot of attention, and about how underrated he is, how special he is. And in his press conference this week, he was picking his performance apart and saying he was a poor route runner and needed to work on that. You know, so it doesn't look like it's really gotten to his head, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think he genuinely has a great. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think he's got genuinely a great work ethic. I think he's one of those guys that feels like he knows how good he is, but he's just. I think part of it is want to prove everyone wrong, but also just earn every bit that he can get, right? And man, he's earning it.
Now I've been having conversations and I've been seeing some things going around on social media because they had Brett Rippon was given the option of staying with the Broncos or getting released from the practice squad and signing with the Browns, and he chose to stay with the Broncos. Now I've been hearing and some rumors and seeing some things about the potential of a Drew Lock trade before the trade deadline. I'm hearing Miami and I'm hearing Pittsburgh. Now, have you heard anything into that? Is that just stupid stuff floating around social media, or?
I mean, I think it's very telling. I had heard like all of camp, they love Brett Rippon. He is like the quintessential backup, right? This guy is always ready. So he's like the Gary Kubiak to the John Elway. Guy's always ready. He's the perfect backup role. He can come in for 2 or 3 games. Like he's studied, he prepared. They love Brett Rippon. And that was one of those things that I had heard over and over and over again from guys kind of within the building. And so this is a very telling. It's also interesting. You wonder what they told Brett for him to make this decision, right? Is there a future for him? There's also the other side of it of like having to go to a new city, all of those things. You know, you're so loved here. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to stay, but there might be something more than that, right? You can't not speculate about that. And the truth is with Drew, what he showed, especially even in the preseason, he's a good trade piece. A team that doesn't have Tua, where what the heck is going on with Big Ben? You can see teams being interested in Drew because he's, like we've talked about, he's got the arm, he's gotten smarter, he's gotten better at the game. Like there's no denying that Drew took huge steps. He's got, I think, 18 games as a starter. I think that's a guy that people would call about. That's a valuable trade piece. And so if they're so eager to keep Brett, it makes you think, well.
Uh-oh.
Well, what?
Oh, they cut out the signal.
Well, what?
They don't want her giving away the secrets.
He always waits till
we have to know. We have to know.
Send her the link again just in case she needs it.
Yeah.
Were you guys shocked about the Browns being the team because they have Case Keenum as the backup to Baker? I mean,
still, I thought Keenum retired.
Well, and I heard Texans too. So because I had heard Pittsburgh, I'd heard Texans, and I'd heard Browns.
For Rippon. Okay.
Yeah, for Rippon. And so I think Albright had come out with Texans, and then somebody came out with it was the Browns.
It was Albright. It was Browns. It said Browns.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I knew it was one of them.
Left us.
You said well, and then left. We're like, what?
You
Welcome back, Romi.
Find out
What's
next
going
week.
on? I hate this. But gosh,
Romi is the queen of the cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to make sure that you guys were. I was like talking your ears off.
Oh, hell.
You guys were like, delete, bye. No, but I do think, as they say, right? There's no smoke without fire, fire without smoke. I always say that one wrong.
Can go both ways.
Where there's smoke,
there's fire.
Yeah. But again, I think Drew Lock is someone that other teams will be interested in. I think the Broncos can use him as a valuable trade piece, and if nothing else, if they get the right deal, they know they have a good backup in Brett. But I mean, Drew can definitely be a valuable trade piece, really. If they're going to ride Teddy, then why not explore what you can get with Drew when teams are in needs of quarterback and we're only in week 4?
Do you foresee Drew being gone before the trade deadline or no?
I don't know, because see, what was interesting to me, as I had thought, was the big thing with Teddy that has always been a concern would be like his health, right? And you knew, well, Drew is capable of filling in for a starter for as long as that might happen, right? But Teddy, I mean, right now has been playing lights out. If he keeps playing like this, his line can keep him healthy, then I don't know. This kind of changes the narrative. I like at the beginning of the season, I was one of those people that I was like, we're going to see them both, and I thought it was primarily because of health. But like, we also didn't expect Teddy to be escaping the pocket and being Mr. Escape Artist here and all these things, and having a 75, with the highest completion percentage through 3 weeks, all of these things. So, I don't know. It is a 17-week season, and I think it's a bit of a gamble, but I think, again, if you get the right offer, right, and you feel like you have a sturdy enough backup in Brett, also it's a great opportunity for Drew to show what he's got too, right? You want the best for Drew. I know that's maybe that's not the team first think, but Drew's also earned the opportunity to try start somewhere, and I think they like Drew, right? And I think they want to give him the right chances. I think that's part of it too.
It'd be pretty funny if you went to the Steelers after we traded to the Steelers and moved back.
It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy.
Mr. Orange, we can't trade Drew until we know we can replace him. Drew would give us the best chance to stay on track if something happens to Teddy. And that's where I find things kind of interesting, because when you take a look at what Rippon is good at and you take a look at what Teddy is good at, it's the same thing. Now, by no means am I saying that Rippon and Teddy are on the same level, but when you look at the type of quarterback that they are, Rippon and Teddy are the same thing.
Yeah.
So they're really smart. They know where the ball needs to go. They may not have the strongest arm, but they know well enough where they can throw the ball to get the maximum amount of yardage. Whereas with Drew, he definitely improved. But when you're looking at offensive fits, I think that's one of the reasons why Teddy was chosen over Drew, because Teddy fits the offense better than Drew does. So I don't necessarily know if we would get off track with Rippon in there as opposed to Locke.
It's just more of a cerebral versus like physical traits thing, where it's Shermer loves his quick reads, and I think that Rippon technically fits the offense better. However, if you put Drew Lock in like a Shanahan system or something like that, I think that he would thrive better. I don't know. In Pittsburgh, I'm not too sure, but I think that it would be better for him to get an opportunity in not this kind of offense as much, but I completely want him to succeed wherever he goes or if he stays.
I mean, I think all you have to look at is how successful he was when Rich Scangarello was the offensive coordinator. That is the kind of system that Drew Lock thrives in, right? And you saw it, and they fired Scangarello, and it all kind of, his whole trajectory again went kind of down the tubes. But that, like you said, that is the system where Drew Lock can be the most successful. And like you said, I want Drew Lock to be successful. I know like a lot of fans will be really upset if he goes somewhere else and he lights it up. But in this system, I don't know if he can light it up, right? He can if he's in the right system, right? And I think you guys, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think Brett does fit the system as a backup better. So if it's an opportunity where it benefits both sides, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Now, let's kind of segue into the Ravens game, because we've been talking about Teddy and how well he's played, and we're hearing a lot of, we're 3-0, but it's because we played the Jags and the Jets and the Giants. And it's, everyone's like, well, the Ravens game is going to be the prove it game. So how do we see the Broncos stacking up against the Ravens on Sunday?
I mean, I think this is far and away, like everyone said, it's going to be their toughest test. I think this is a field goal game. This is not, I mean, the Broncos have beaten their opponents by double digits. I don't see that happening in this one, like at all. This is going to be tough. I think a key thing with the Ravens too is that, they've been like 29th in pass defense, but they're getting, I think, 3 guys back off the COVID list in their secondary. So all of a sudden that's going to be a whole lot tougher. It's going to look a little bit different. And the other thing too is I think that Ravens are just a tough team, especially when you look at that defensive front. They are just tough. They are gritty. And I have all the faith in the world that Netani Muti and Quinn Miners can fill in admirably, but you're going to go against guys that are going to exploit your weaknesses in pass pro. And that's just naturally going to happen if you've been a backup. Like, you got to learn pass pro, right? The run game comes a little more naturally because you're pushing forward, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that this is, Calais Campbell, these guys, Derek Wolfe, right? It's a revenge game, But I think it's going to be really tough. I think the interior O-line is going to be in for a challenge. And so I think this is going to be, we're not going to see like this. I don't think Teddy's going to have as much success being super pass happy. I just think there's going to be a lot more pressure. This is going to be a really tough game. The Ravens defense is going to be tough. And of course you got Lamar Jackson, right? Yeah. Nobody's like him. He's a guy that you always have to have a guy on. He always takes away one of your defenders, right? And Vic Fangio even said it. What did he say? He's like, he's one of a kind, thank God, right? Because this is a guy that he plays, that backyard football where his receivers find ways to get open. And, Justin Simmons said it. It's not the first 3 seconds of the play you got to worry about. It's the 4th, 5th, and 6th second that happens afterwards. So this requires so much more focus from the defense. But I think this is going to be a great test for the defense because, like I said at the beginning, I think this defense is legit. So you want to see him get really challenged by a guy. This is going to be great to see. The other big thing I honestly think is, like, the Ravens are battle tested. The Broncos are not. And that's so it's how do you come up against a team that knows what it takes to, I know they only beat the Lions by 2, but again, they've been able to stay in games till the very end. This is a totally different situation. So I think it's a big litmus test in that way too, in how they handle this challenge, this adversity, because it's just going to be totally different than anything they faced these first 3 weeks. I still think they can pull it out, but it's just going to require a lot more grit and a lot more kind of just adjusting when things aren't going to work. Like, everything worked the first 3 games because, in part because the opponents were really bad. So everything's not just going to work seamlessly like that, and we're going to see how they adapt, how they adjust.
My biggest fear is the lack of depth we have at cornerback right now, which is funny to say. But the fact that they will probably have to run a lot of nickel and dime just to try to cover what Lamar potentially will be able to do and the speed to be able to keep up. Because we've seen, even when Justin, who is, more physically gifted than a Josie Jewell, he got put on skates multiple times last week. So I can only imagine what Lamar Jackson would do to him. So that is my main worry. But I kind of take a approach similar to a Cam Newton, where you try to make him throw as much as possible. Cause, like, as weird as it is to say that's kind of his, his weaker part of it and more outside the numbers. But I think Fangio's defense is pretty well built for this. I just wish we had more depth to be able to really do what we really wanted to do with Lamar.
I think
I was going to say, hearing you say that I'm sorry. I shouldn't interrupt you. I was going to say, hearing you say that it's going to be a field goal game is scary, because with Tucker kicking a 66-yard field goal in Michigan, what could he do in Denver?
But have you ever wanted to see, like, a kickoff more between, like, McManus and Tucker? Like, let's just go.
Yes,
please. Let's do go. Woo. Who can go the farthest? I'm here for it.
Till the first one misses.
The scary part is that we're excited about that. Like, let the kickers kick it out.
Right.
This Ravens team is such a weird team, though. They could easily be 0-3 right now, if not for a fluke fumble from Kansas City and then a 66-yard field goal that bounced across the crossbar. Yeah. But their rushing game is so powerful too that we're talking about the passing and our defensive backs, but they're on the verge of breaking the consecutive 100-yard rushing record in the NFL. They've already had 42 straight games, which is just they're a scary team, but I think we have the weapons to counteract all that.
Yeah, they are a really scary team.
One of the things I was talking to Don about right before we came on was the Ravens defense and offense. So they've scored 82 points. So to me, that just sounds like they haven't faced any really good defenses yet, but they've allowed 85 points. So they've just been getting crushed by good offenses. And so far this year, we have a top 10 offense. So to me, it's like we're both being tested. Like we're going to test the Ravens and they're going to test us. This isn't like a Ravens of the past couple of years. This is a different Ravens team that we're going against.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's for both teams. I think that, this is a test for both teams. I think this is going to be a battle. But one thing that if the Broncos can continue doing is the ball control offense. Because like you've always said, the best way to beat Patrick Mahomes is keep him off the field, right?
Yep.
Like in the last game, Teddy led 2 drives over 7 minutes. In the 2 games before that, he had 3 that were over 8 minutes. So if you can find a way to keep your offense on the field like that, again, control time of possession, it's such a key, one, in keeping your defense super fresh, but also in containing a guy like Lamar Jackson, right? He's one of those guys, he doesn't need a lot of time. So the less amount of time you can give him on the field, the better. So if they can continue with this ball control offense, that's going to be huge. And I know time of possession is kind of like boring. It's not the sexy stat to talk about, but it's huge. I mean, they lead the league in time of possession right now. And that makes a huge difference for, one, what opposing offenses can do, and 2, how fresh your defense can be every time Lamar does come out on that field.
Yeah. Well, and there's looking at the injury report here. So Lamar Jackson has not participated in practice Wednesday or Thursday because of a back issue. They also it's looking like Ronnie Stanley, who's their all-pro tackle, the left tackle, he's going to be out. Yeah. Villanueva, he's been injured all week. So has Derek Wolfe and Brandon Williams. He's been hurt too. As far as we go, it's Reisner and Glasgow are the only 2 that did not participate in practice, and it sounds like there's a good chance that those 2 won't play either. So we might see more Moody and Miners. Now, are they technically Moody is the left guard and Miners is right guard, but they had him switch for the game.
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason why, or?
I'm not actually sure if there is a particular reason why they did that. I don't know if it was just because Glasgow went out first and Moody has more experience. So I don't know. And that's why they put him in first. That might have been why. Because, outside of that, I'm not entirely sure. That would be like a Mike Munchak question maybe, right? Or, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we talk about Broncos injury. It's hard to talk about injuries with anyone with the Ravens because they have lost so many guys. But I don't know, Lamar, he's going to play, right? Back or not, he's going to play. I'm not worried about that.
And Lamar is the Ravens offense. Like, that's it.
Right.
It's Lamar.
Everyone else is just an added bonus at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you give me a backup tackle against Von Miller any day, and how can you not love that? But at the same token, again, if we got 2 really green guys on the interior line, that changes the pass pro a lot. Maybe Cushenberry has to slide over. That leaves an open slot. And again, just this Ravens D-line is experienced enough to be able to exploit any mistakes that they might make. And as a young guy, you're going to make mistakes. So I do think I'm interested to see how they attack that, right? Do you bring another running back up, more tight ends, but that's going to be, I think, the most interesting matchup is the interior O-line and the D-line. But of course, Von Miller against a backup left tackle is always a great story too.
Well, and you talked about time of possession for the Broncos being a key. I believe the Ravens are number 2 in the NFL in time of possession on offense.
I think you might be right.
I think the Ravens are number 2.
Yeah.
So, can we extend that time of possession? Like, let them have the ball. Just hold on to it.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. I just think it is all about Lamar, and that's why they have such. I mean, just focus on Lamar. I don't care who they give it to. I don't care if Gus Edwards comes back from the dead, or just look at Lamar and just tackle him. I don't care if he has the ball. No, it is.
And Hollywood Brown, he's been having a rough year. He's had a lot of drops this year.
And
I know
my fantasy team knows as well. Yeah,
they're on their 4th running back now, or they're still on their 3rd. I don't even know who their running back is. It Sermon? No, that's Niners.
Doug Martin, I think. Maybe
the hamster.
Barry Sanders.
LaShawn McCoy is coming
Mike
back.
Anderson.
He's going to be with the Ravens
again.
They're digging deep, I feel.
and retire.
See, my dream,
you've got to think it's going
scenario
to be.
is, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Well, you got to think it's mainly a focus on. I mean, you kind of even want to bring as many people onto the line as you can just to watch Lamar and watch the run game, and just let the corners and the safeties take the receivers by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, one thing with Vic Fangio's corners is, man, they can all tackle. You can't play corner for Vic Fangio if you can't tackle. I mean, even I was watching some film, you saw Caden Stearns in coverage. And the guy was great. He had a couple of tackles. And so I think that they got a lot of faith in that. But it's one of those things, right? You always risk it. If you sell out, then you risk those big plays. But again, I do think you said it. It all comes down to making Lamar as uncomfortable as possible, right? And again, Lamar can go 40 yards, right? You can't risk that at all. He is your first, second, and third priority without a doubt.
So what are we seeing as score predictions for the game here?
I think 23-20 Broncos.
Ooh. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I'm gonna go with
you can't say it now. You got to change it. You got to use something else, Don.
That's why I jumped in first. I knew someone else was
going to say 100 and no.
What are you, whiz kid?
I'm going 31-24 Broncos.
I'm going to say 26-20.
I'm going to say
20.
Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, you first.
I was going to say. You were going to say. Okay. 17-13.
I was going to say 17-14.
And as the vice president of the Patrick Surtain
stop it. Stop it.
He's going to be MVP of the game.
Bree's going to be mad at you.
She's already mad at me.
She did not make you an officer.
And she's the freaking president.
So my dream
he
scenario.
likes to go by Pat, though. You got to call him Pat.
Oh, yeah. Sure. That's true.
Pat.
And tell Rich it's Surtain.
Surtain.
Not Tane. It's Tan.
Surtain.
They say it differently in Canada, boss.
Well, no. Doesn't matter.
We're not in the
American
CFL,
football.
Yeah, we're not.
Glasses says 17-13.
And Shane Ray play.
Right?
So what are the chances we can get Casa Bonita to open for one night, cater the Ravens team meal on Saturday, and send Lamar into the locker room with his notorious cramps? That would be quite the strategy.
Do we have another poop gate on our hands? Is that what we're looking at?
A duty gate. See, but then the whole but narrative has to carry on for another week, right? Oh, but they were out without Lamar. Like, let's just let the Broncos prove it this week. Don't have to have another but week.
That would literally be a but.
That would be a double entendre but that one for sure.
Mr. Orange 24-17 Broncos. Jason O'Neill 20-17 Broncos. Richie Rich 24-13 Broncos. Avatar says 24-17 Broncos. We're seeing a lot of 24s and 17s. KB82, he's always the smartest guy in the room, except for when we have a guest in the show, because then they're all smarter than him anyways. If the Ravens run pass option or the option, I think we should hit Lamar every time and ignore the running backs. If we can get a couple big hits on Lamar, I see multiple fumbles in his future. He has had a fumbling issue this year. He's had one or two per game, hadn't he? I mean, he had 4 turnovers just in the last game.
He Shady McCoys it though. He holds the ball.
Yeah, he breadbasks it.
He's just out here.
What are we doing, bro?
Adon, you're fired.
Apparently, yeah, I saw that.
Bree says 24-21, and Adon's fired.
Bree is like Vic. There's no mystery as to what's going on.
You've been demoted to secretary. That's
I appreciate that. You got to appreciate someone who tells it like it is, right?
Albert Knoppers 24-20 Broncos.
Okay.
He had one against the Raiders that cost them the game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
And again, without that
66-yarder, right?
The Ravens don't win that game either.
Yeah.
But I think that always has to be your strategy, to hit Lamar and hit him hard. Like, you hate to say it, but it's a physical game, and he's their biggest weapon. You got to go after him hard, right? Especially if you know if he has a little bit of fumbleitis. Like, How is that not part of your strategy?
Yeah.
You know?
So,
Romy, what was the crowd like on Sunday, by the way, and what do you expect for this game?
Oh man, it was great. You know, like the one thing is, even when like the Broncos were in the depths of their terribleness the past few years, there were still so many fans. It would filter out, right? And it would get really quiet, but everyone would show up to the start of it, like super hopeful. And I think just this year they show up 2-0, right? They've been playing great ball. So it's a combination of that. Plus fans haven't been in there since 2019. It was just like the perfect storm. It was, you know, they have no reason not to be excited. So it was electric. It was lively. And, you know, then it came out, it was the most attended game of the weekend. So, I mean, it was fantastic. It was like Broncos country representing, man. And I expect the same. I expect the same, if not even more, you know, this coming week. The Ravens aren't one of those teams, I think, that like travel super well.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I don't know, but I think Broncos fans, rightfully so, are super pumped right now, and I mean, you want to see it, right? So I think it's going to be crazy and lively again.
Can't wait.
I'm ready for the upset. Let's go, baby.
Wait, aren't we favored?
Yeah, I think so.
Are we?
So no, you're not excited for an upset.
I think they're at -1.
We just had two firings.
How are we?
I thought we were like 2-point favorites, weren't we?
I think it's close. It's like they're 1-point favorites right
1.7 or something like that.
It's close.
Vegas be crazy.
So no, we're not looking for an upset, Boggins.
No upset here.
Not at all.
It's trap game.
Trap game.
Trap game.
We said we're professional, Romy. We truly are. You know?
That was a complete fabrication.
It's my level of professionalism right here.
there we go.
Let's get it.
This literally comes down to a battle of the trenches. It really kind of does.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's going to be a gritty, you know, not a finesse game. This is a gritty, hard-fought, nasty game.
I think that about does it.
Mm-hmm.
So Romy, can I switch from this to a report you had from Minnesota, because I thought it was so much fun when you were on the roller coaster at the Mall of America.
Yeah.
Was that one take, or did you have to keep riding it until you got it?
It was one take, because I didn't realize this, but like you're not allowed to have cell phones on roller coasters. So I was like, I pulled out my cell phone and I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because we were in the mall and I was like, man, I could do like my whole sportscast on all these different rides, right? But the quarterback roller coaster just felt so fitting, because at that point too, it was still Drew and Teddy are tied. So I was pretty proud of myself for that one. And they actually used it on TV, which I was very proud about.
And you handled yourself way better than Surtain. He went up like 4 feet and he's like, oh my God.
I love it. Look, guys, I've covered the Broncos the last 4 years. I mean, I'm used to a roller coaster ride, right? 4 or 5 years. So that was nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, we are just about out of time. So we definitely want to thank Romy for joining us on the show today.
Awesome.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
you.
We love it. And if you want to, if not, is there any place that you would like people to follow you or read your information or watch your newscasts, or it's up to you. It's up to you.
First of all, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been so much fun. I feel really bad. I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted so many times. So I really apologize for hijacking so much of the show. I apologize a million times.
That was the point.
Yeah.
The point is you're here. Yeah.
So
You talk so we don't have to.
Yeah.
you can talk about me once
You
I
came
turn it
back
off.
after you left, so that was an added bonus.
But yeah, I'm on Twitter at Romi_Bean. That's silly underscore. Instagram Romi Bean, and then if you are in the Denver or Colorado area on CBS Denver, CBS 4, we're always on. So would love for you to watch. Anytime. If you are in the area, hit me up. I'll let you know when I'm on. The schedule's kind of wacky.
So make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, and turning on notifications for not only the MHRT Network, but also for Romy. So you can make sure you get all of the information on when we post things on social media. Now, remember, it is not just the MHRT podcast. We also have Broncos Talk on Tuesdays. I messed that completely up, and now I don't remember what I'm supposed to read. So Take two. We have Broncos Talk on Tuesday, hosted by a 6'10" and Rich at 7654. The Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue on the noon at Friday at 7654. And we have the brand new pregame show, The Neighborhood, that airs live before every Broncos game. That last one was very fun. We have check-ins with the Mile High Prophet for his tailgate check-in on the home games. It was pretty awesome to see that this last show. So make sure you're checking in for that. You can also catch the audio versions of all the network's podcasts on all the major podcast streaming services. Links are in the description below. We love you all. We love Broncos country. Go Broncos. Now we have to end it with the Mile High Five. I have no idea if you know what that is, Romy, but the Mile High Five was started by Mr. Johnny Bakke, and all you do is you hold the hands out to the side like this. And then I yell, Mile High Five, and then we clap overhead like that.
Okay.
Pretty simple. All right, here we go. Everybody ready?
Let's do it.
Mile High Five.
Woo!
Done. That's all we got to do.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Feels
everybody,
good.
for joining us. Thank you, Romy, for joining us. And we
you,
will
guys.
see you on Sunday for the pregame show. But make sure you're also checking out the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast tomorrow night. Bye, everybody.
Hasta luego.